What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Canadian Football Fanatics YouTube channel. And thank you guys for tuning in to our second BCFC season preview for the British Columbia Football Conference kicks off here in a matter of weeks. First and foremost, before we get into the video today, folks, hope everybody had a happy Canada Day. But with the end of Canada Day is the sign of the CJFL season around the corner. As I mentioned, the BCFC kicks off here on the 19th in a few weeks' time. As of the recording of this, it is the 3rd as of now, 16 days out, just a little over 2 weeks' time. This weekend marks 2 weeks out. Teams are starting to open up main camp this week, starting to get their whole teams into town now, and starting to get a realistic look and kind of outlook on the season, what the team could look like, and what they got to work with this season. So for those of you that were able to and did check out our first BCFC season preview, we had on Coach Gerren Hardisty, head coach of the Vancouver Island Raiders, to preview their upcoming season. As you guys can see by this thumbnail of the video, judging by the background as well, this episode is featured on the Okanagan Sun, the reigning, defending, undisputed Cullen Cup champs, representing the BCFC in last year's Canadian Bowl. Unfortunately, they fell short to the St. Clair Saints, I believe it is, in the national championship. But Coach Miller has quite the resume over the last few years up in Okanagan. I believe just over a 36-3 record. Two-time BCFC Coach of the Year. As I said, national champion in 2022. So Coach Travis has quite the resume and has, established his program quite well over the last few years since taking over in 2022. And like I said, looking forward to getting into another season preview with Coach Travis here in a little bit, as we did with Coach Hardisty. But of course, before we do, folks, all the reminders for you guys. Of course, you guys can like the video down below. Comment down below. Actually, we'd love to hear from you guys how you guys enjoyed our season preview number 1. Maybe how you guys enjoyed this season preview. And then comment down below which season preview you guys would like us to drop next. And we can see what is in store. The next one should be dropping here this upcoming weekend or by the end of it. And yeah, stay tuned for that one. Of course, follow us on our social media platforms, as you can see on Twitter @_CF Fanatics, as well as on Instagram, Canadian Football Fanatics. You guys can find us over there as well. Please subscribe. All of our lovely followers from over on Instagram, please head over to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel. When you guys subscribe, press the notification bell. You guys get notified every single time we upload a video or go live on the channel. You guys won't regret it. So that brings me to today's episode and a little bit more. We have some news. We actually recently partnered with the British Columbia Football Conference and are going to be collaborating with them. We actually had a great phone call with president of the BCFC the other day, Tyler McLaren. And as I mentioned, it was a great conversation with Tyler. We were able to work out, as I mentioned, our little partnership collaboration this season, where, as you guys have already seen with our season previews that are coming out, we are actually going to be doing some more content for the BCFC this year. We're actually going to be doing a weekly show that's going to be undecided as of now, whether it's going to be on our channel or the BCFC's YouTube channel. But the plan as of now, as I mentioned, just getting off the phone with Tyler earlier in the week, still sorting out a little bit more of the details. We are going to be looking to be recording a weekly show every Sunday night throughout the BCFC season and uploading it to you guys on Monday morning, kind of like a BCFC this week type of vibe, where we'll get on there for maybe about an hour a week. We'll kind of recap the previous games that week. So say, like I mentioned, we're recording on a Sunday. We'll recap the games that are on Saturday, and then we'll be joined by a guest, maybe a head coach or maybe a positional coach, and then maybe a player or something like that throughout the season. So awesome news on behalf of the BCFC and Canadian Football Fanatics. Like I mentioned, guys, go comment down below in the video. Let us know how excited you guys are about this collaboration. Go tag them on our Instagram account. Go comment on the BCFC's Instagram account. Let them know how excited you guys are for our collaboration partnership. It should be a good one. As I mentioned a few times on this platform now, of just trying to leave the game in a better place than the where I found it. And I think this will go a long way this season. And looking forward to covering the BCFC. So that brings me to this episode and previewing the Okanagan Sun. Going to sit down with head coach Travis Miller. As I mentioned, the resume is a long one, and going to be a fun conversation to chat with Coach Miller about the Okanagan season upcoming here and the 2025 version of the Okanagan Sun. So without further ado, let's bring on two-time Coach of the Year in the BCFC and CGFL National Champion in 2022, head coach of the Okanagan Sun, Travis Miller. Coach, thank you for joining us. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Cole, how you doing?
We're doing good. We're doing great. As I can see, you're just coming off the field, and it's been busy. It's been a good time of year, though, Coach. As you know, the season is here, and you're starting to get players in town and practicing for real. And the season is obviously on the horizon, Coach. How was how was getting everybody in town? And how is it just coming? I believe just off the practice field.
Yeah, it was great. It's day 4 for us. We have 96 guys in town right now, so it's been hectic as it is getting anybody into the getting into the Apple Bowl and obviously getting into lockers and into billets and all those kind of things. But it's always that fun time of year where you start to remember why you do it, why you spend that whole off season recruiting these guys and bringing them in and getting a chance to see what they do on the field is probably the highlight of the day every day.
Yes. So before we get back into your Okanagan Sun, Coach, I wanted to ask you again about, you had the long off season and obviously the waiting and waiting for this time of year to come back around. But you were a little busy this off season. You made the trip over to Italy and represented Team Canada with the senior men's national team. If you don't mind, maybe just talking about your experience and how much of a positive experience I think that will be for the growth of Canadian football in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, getting the opportunity to represent your country overseas is a pretty unique thing, and obviously we worked with a lot of professionals, and it was just a great experience from a person of our league and somebody who represents the CJFL to go over there and work with some of the best in the country. And I think from my standpoint, it was one of those opportunities where you get a lot of learn. You get the opportunity to learn from some great coaches, Stevenson Bone and Chris Marshall, and working with Coach Maddox and some of the other guys that we had. It was a really unique opportunity to work with a bunch of guys in a melting pot and kind of put together some really cool ideas. And it was just a great time. And I got a chance to bring my partner over there with me, and her and I got a chance to tour Italy as well too. So yeah, it was fantastic. It was a great experience from a personal side of things, and then the football was just icing on the cake.
So, Coach, let's get into your Okanagan Sun now, Coach. As last year, the 10-0 regular season record, and you end up beating Regina in the national semifinal, and unfortunately come up one game short of being able to bring that home, the national championship home once again. I'm curious, as I know the competitors that you guys are up in Okanagan, and I'm sure the motivation that lies in that locker room, and I'm sure all offseason of yourself, of not only scouting yourself but other teams and stuff like that. What are some areas that maybe you were looking at in the offseason, Coach, for you guys to maybe get better at, and for you to ultimately win that last game of the year and be national champions this upcoming year?
Yeah, I mean it was a hell of a game. It was a back and forth slugfest the whole time, and my hats off to St. Clair. They did a phenomenal job, especially in that third and fourth quarter adjusting. So, when we look at that game and we kind of spent a lot of time just looking back on what went right and what went wrong, we realized that our run game was quite strong, and we were obviously very happy with it. So, I think the first order of business was to try to solidify that and get a guy like Gerren Hardisty here in Kelowna was such a pivotal part of our offseason recruiting plan, and then shoring up our defensive line. We wanted to make sure that all the guys that we had there were top-notch players across the board. And for us, that was a very, very hard part of the season and that year was that their O line just dominated our D line. So obviously that became a major point for us to try to find the best defensive players in the country and also increase what we could with the guys that were in town and putting in work. So from our side of things, it just the focus was on rebuilding and not so much just retooling. We wanted to bring in new players across the board, and from our standpoint, I think we did a pretty good job with a recruiting class of about 60 some players coming in.
When talking about that recruiting class, Coach, I kind of wanted to transition there next. And you guys are a very winning program now, and a lot of recruits are going to want to reach out and trying to join your program. I'm curious, when going out there, and it's a long recruiting process, and as you mentioned, of the 60 guys you're bringing in, and as kind of, we're aware with like your guys' circumstances of, we're on a small island here, you guys up in Okanagan only have so much to pick from around you guys. So you guys are traveling nationally, and even to Europe now with kind of that portal that's been opened. What are you guys looking for in terms of the Sun DNA that you guys are trying to bring in, with obviously not being able to maybe meet all these guys in person and stuff like that, and having to put some trust in them to bring them in and stuff like that? What are you guys looking for in terms of that Sun DNA to bring in and kind of trust them that they're going to be able to fit in and be able to thrive in your guys' program?
Sure. From our standpoint, we only have 4 high schools in the region that we're able to draw from. So, we have a very small recruiting area in terms of the Okanagan, and a little different than some of the other CJFL teams across the country that have 10, 12, 14 high schools in their backyard. So, our recruiting net has to be wide, and we've really decided that we're casting that across the country and really across North America as a whole. I think we've led the league in bringing in Americans, or have been right at the top every year with bringing in, top tier talent at that position. And, we spend a lot of time in the off season finding the right fit and trying to make sure that those guys are going to be, impacts to what we're doing on our team, but it really does start at home with the 4 high schools that we have here. We've been very fortunate to get some amazing local talent, and our team is made up of players obviously from across the country and across North America. But, the local players play such a huge role in what we do as an organization. So for us, recruiting starts at home. Solidify the people in your backyard that meet the talent level and requirements that they need to be a part of our program, and then we fill it with places and people from across the world. And so, the DNA of a player coming to Kelowna, I think a lot of coaches say this, but our program isn't for everybody. My coaching style, as you know, Cole, is very loud and sometimes maybe a little bit too aggressive. So it doesn't fit everybody from a player's perspective, and so the DNA of a player with our team is somebody who wants to put in the work and wants to get better, but doesn't want the fluff and doesn't want the gray area. We're pretty direct on how we handle things. And again, if you've listened to any games or been around any game I coach, you know that I'm pretty direct, whether it's the officials or players on our team or coaches on the other team. So it's one of those things where that's just how I am. I want to be direct, and all my coaches are that way. Again, it's Shane Beatty's right next to me the whole way. So between the two of us, we're a pretty loud group, and I think for some players it doesn't work, but for other players that buy in and are a part of what we're doing, it makes things easy for them because they know what they're doing right, they know what they're doing wrong, and they know what they need to do to get better. And because we have a really tough-minded group of individuals that are highly hyper-focused on winning, it makes it a lot easier as a group to be hard on those players and really give them the feedback that they need to get better and help drive our team forward. So when we talk about a player that fits the criteria for us for our program, it really comes down to the mental toughness that a kid needs to be here in Kelowna to handle 18 weeks of our coaching style, and then the celebration that comes with winning football games as a team.
Yeah. So when talking about the off season, the recruiting process, Coach, you already mentioned him. Gerren Hardisty going to be suiting up in the orange this year, and obviously for those that are kind of aware of the BCFC, playing in West Shore a few years ago, going to the University of York, you've been very lucky and accustomed to seeing and watching star running backs up there in Kelowna. How excited are you to kind of get Gerren into your guys' program and watch him on the field this year?
I can't say enough good things about that young man. From the day that I started recruiting him till he committed to our program, I felt like him and I were going to click, and that's really what it's been. He's a competitor. I'm a competitor. He's a bit of an asshole. I'm a bit of an asshole, and I just know that the personalities really, really click. And so he's going to be the heartbeat of our offense, the same way that Noah was last year. And we have a really good supporting cast around him that are going to highlight him and really make him I think take a different level and a different step in his development as a player. So it's exciting for us, not only on the field but off the field. He's a leader. From the second that he walked in here, the kids respected the hell out of him, as did I and everybody else. We've seen what he can do in this league. We saw what he did at the university level, and truthfully, I'm just excited with the big offensive line that we have in front of him and the amazing receivers that we have in the room. I can't wait to see the opportunity of him working together with everybody.
So you guys also had another addition offensively, Coach, and that's in the coaching staff with bringing in Coach McCarty, who spent the past few seasons with Langley, and obviously yourself as being the head coach, offensive coordinator. Coach, if you don't mind, maybe talking about a few players that maybe some fans could be getting ready to watch this upcoming season, as well as kind of as I kind of already joked with you, not wanting to give too much of the secrets away, but just a slight kind of offensive identity that we can maybe expect from the Sun this year.
Sure. Yeah, we from a coaching perspective, I said this to you before. It's not a normal thing to add another head coach to your organization, and somebody who has done it at the level that Jordan has. I mean, Langley was a great team last year, and fell just a little bit short with that West Shore game, but ultimately, when you bring someone like that into your organization, it allows you to have somebody you can bounce ideas off of. They can bring a new perspective, and I think we've been very, very good at bringing in coaches from across the different landscapes of the Okanagan, and we have another former head coach in Shane Beatty on the staff as well too. So between the three of us, it's a really unique group that has a lot of experience at this level and as head coaches, and it allows us to really manipulate our practices and our players to get the most out of them. I think it's a huge addition for us, and I'm just glad that Jordan's not in that blue anymore. So happy for that. When it comes to players to watch and kind of our team, Gerren, number one, phenomenal football player. Very excited about Liam Kruger at quarterback. He's put a lot of work in this offseason, and going into his fifth year, even though fourth year of eligibility, he's been here for 5 years, and I'm just excited to see what he's kind of put together this offseason. Very, very happy with how he's handling himself and the team. And then we brought in a whole bunch of receivers, a couple guys from York with Blake and Seth. And then we brought in a receiver from the University of Alberta and Chewy Thomas. Jordan Falconer's back. Sam Melanson's back. Tyler Craver's back. Ty Walker's back. So we have a huge room with a lot of experience and just talent, that I haven't seen before in a number of years. So that's an exciting thing on offense to see, not only the running game paired with our passing game and that offensive line that we have. I mean, we brought in, Timmy Gagafian from the States. We brought in Duke Hubbard from the States, Daniel Almaragbi at the university level. Zach Barnard is healthy and back. Jacob Soldier is back. And then obviously we can't forget Caden Kurentoff, who's probably the best offensive lineman in the country, in my opinion, and then another guy in Parker Kellington. So we have a group of 7 or 8 guys that are just super talented, and a couple of local players that, between Sean Bazaran and Wyatt Bray, that could really do some damage this year and provide us the depth of that position that we desperately need.
When talking about talent on the team, coach, you have to start with, obviously, I don't think it's a debate about best defensive player in the country. I think that you could argue best player, flat out player in the country, of Jacob Bond. How much fun has it been for you to, watch him grow, of, a guy that was kind of, somewhat new and getting to kind of know football, I know, out of high school, starting late, and you guys have really been able to kind of develop him, and he's, getting rave reviews at BC Lions camp, and it looks like, in a few years that, he could be very well a part of kind of that, Kieran Passant, Javon Couture's, the guys that have went from BCFC to the CFL. So talk about how special it is to watch Jacob Bond, and just how I guess cool it is to be a part of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, let's start off, with the question. He is by far the best defensive player in the country. He was the best defensive player in the country in 2024, and he'll be the best player in the country in 2025. I know Stephen Smith was an excellent player as well too, but I think if you even just look at the way the Regina game went and the way that he played in that game, he laid an emphasis in that game that I think a lot of people saw, and I can't say enough good things about him. I mean, he's our leader on and off the field. He's a fifth-year player. He has done everything we've asked him to do from a development perspective on the field and off the field. He's the heartbeat of our organization. He's our guy, and he's somebody that everybody is excited to see play, in the CFL at whatever point that is. He's got the opportunity to practice with the Lions and play with us, which is just so unique, and something that I'm so excited for him. He's such a good person, humble guy on top of it that, I can't say enough good things, and how excited we are as an organization to see one of our guys, get a chance at the professional level. So definitely Jacob Bond is the number one guy in the country, in my opinion. Yeah, and then the next question was that about the defensive side of the ball, kind of just looking at some of those guys.
Yes, please, coach. Yeah.
Yeah. So looking at our defensive side of the ball, our defensive line is, I think I said that before, is pretty crazy in terms of the talent that we have there. Hunter Baltzba coming back, adding Jaquintus Summers and Jarvion Williams, Santiago Ramirez. You bring in Carter Stockwood, Isaiah Anderson Usman looks like an animal out there. And then, look at our linebackers that has Phil Palmarin, who's our 2023 Defensive Player of the Year. You add in Grayson Statham, who's a very underrated linebacker and very, very strong in his position. And then you get guys like Tariq Brown coming back. You have Vicente Ferreira. You have Easton Fensky. And then obviously getting an all-Canadian back in Ahmed Borhat is such a big deal. So, I think our team from a defensive side of things is pretty locked and loaded and arguably as good as we played last year. I think that there's more continuity this year with Shane coming back. And, it's not a new system to these guys. It's just more of a tweak. And so it's exciting. It's tough in practice as the offensive coordinator to see that D-line every single day coming at you. I can tell you that much. So it's an exciting time. We're looking forward to July 19th in Langley, and it can't come soon enough for our organization.
Yeah, coach, you already talked about him a few times, and I'm a kid that grew up around going to Caledonia Park around the BCFC. I was lucky enough to play in the BCFC, so I'm very well aware who Shane Beatty is. I'm probably maybe too used to hearing that voice around the sidelines of going to BCFC games, and you already mentioned of kind of like how much of a benefit it is to have him on the staff of kind of the I know you're a boisterous guy too, but him being a very boisterous guy, kind of his kind of the I guess identity that comes with his defense of being physical and kind of setting the tone and being very up and aggressive in your face. So just kind of wanted to throw that in there before we move on here, coach, and kind of tie it into this next one here of kind of your guys's I feel like identity or maybe like DNA, I guess, of like you said it the first time we did this too, coach, of like, offensively identity, you wanted to, establish the run and kind of pound the rock, especially with your big offensive line. And kind of the first thing you mentioned on defense was on that defensive line. I think when it comes back to football, like we live in a day and age of like, the fantasy football side of things of, kids want to see, the touchdown passes and running it in. And I feel like we kind of forget that, it comes back down to being able to be strong in the trenches, winning at the line of scrimmage, right? And I think we kind of maybe tie it to like the CFL where like, the last few years, you look at the Toronto Argonauts, they were strong at both sides of the line of scrimmage. Winnipeg, strong at both sides of the line of scrimmage. Montreal as well. How much do you kind of take that into consideration when, maybe building your team of like, you mentioned of like, you lose Noah, that he's not coming back, and that kind of priority number one in the offseason is to be able to find that next workhorse back because that's kind of like the direction you want to take your team in.
So one thing I have to mention, I forgot to say Mitchell Hickenbottom in that D line group, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. He's going into his third year and is in incredible shape. But going back to your first question, having Shane Beatty on the staff has been a blessing for me because it adds a different value across the board when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to defensive scheming, when it comes to a guy who isn't a yes man. I think he is the poster child for that. So him and I argue quite a bit, obviously in a positive capacity, and we want what's best for this organization. And having the opportunity to really have somebody question what you're doing, it adds benefit to any organization to move forward and get better. So love having him on the staff, love having what he brings, not only just on the defensive side of the ball, but with special teams and also in our weight room. He runs our entire offseason programming in our new facility, which is top notch. We have a classroom and a bunch of offices, as well as a full functioning gym that he operates, which is very unique for junior football to have that opportunity, but he runs that for us. But yeah, he's a great guy. He's a great addition, a phenomenal coach. It adds a very boisterous atmosphere around our program. So, but then on to your next question, when it comes to the trenches, I think the one thing that has set us apart over the last couple of years is our play on offensive and defensive line. And I think the reason why we have been successful or not successful is because when you get up against teams like the Prairies, where they have big O lines, big D lines, if you're not able to run the ball and have the success with your offensive line, you're not going to win those games. And that's really been the shortfall for the BCFC in past years. And it was sure the shortfall in the national championship for us. That defensive line for St. Clair took over. And then their offense as well. Their offensive line took over late in that game as well. So, we recognize that those are probably the two biggest things that we needed to work on this offseason was increasing our O-line and our D-line. And then whoever we got in the backfield or whoever we had at linebacker, we're going to benefit by us putting our focus and emphasis on those two positions.
So, coach, moving on here of, you hear the saying, or the saying goes around of like it takes a village to raise a kid, or it takes a community, right? And I know talking to a few of the head coaches now around the BCFC that they've mentioned multiple times of like it's not just me, and it's a lot going on behind the scenes. If you don't mind, coach, because obviously you're able to talk about it through your experience of being in a successful program. How important is it to the program of like the kind of what goes on behind the scenes and the buy-in from not only the community but kind of the the people that support the team of like the guys that equipment managers, et cetera, the guys that are there on volunteer basis as well and they have to buy in and are a huge part of, like I said, behind the scenes. And building a successful program. So how kind of important is that, of kind of the community buy-in and being able to have support from them?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I mean, Kelowna is a beautiful place to live, and so it draws a lot of individuals just because of the area that we live in. And so, having not only the setting but then the community support behind us is what sets us apart, in my opinion. Our games are very well attended. We have quite a few fans that come out. So if you've ever been to the Apple Bowl, the atmosphere is always rowdy, and it's always a nice time in terms of having that fanfare. But really, it comes down to the businesses and the board of directors that we have in our organization, and the coaches and the parents and the players that drive the bus. For 40 some years that our team has been around, it's been a community-based team, and the only reason why we have been successful is because of the likes of guys like Les Weiss and Nat Nagy and Jay Christensen and Bob Lindsay and guys throughout the last 40 some years that have put not only their time and effort into it, but sometimes their own money or their family, and they do all these things to give back to the community program that the Okanagan Sun is. And it's a huge part of why we've been successful, is because we have the buy-in from this. And then you tack on our community partners. So, whether it's companies that support us like Stober Group, or even my company, who allows me the opportunity to be here, Gerren's Contracting, without the companies that are, backing me, this organization, the players, the coaches, the time, the money, the effort, everything that goes in, we wouldn't be successful. We wouldn't be here. So we kind of look at it as we're stewards of the organization that during this time frame are the ones that are in the driver's seat to continue the legacy of the program. And we're just doing our best to make sure that we're moving forward. And in order to do that, you need community buy-in. And we try everything that we can to bring the community to Kelowna. And again, I can't say enough good things about our fans, our sponsors, and all the people that are part of this organization. We have board of directors that have been around for 40 years of our organization. And without them, we don't have what we have today. Wayne Moore, who's been the announcer here for about 27 since I played here. It's funny because I was watching a film with my kids and they were listening to Wayne Moore announce me coming onto the field. And then later that day, they're like, "Dad, that's the same guy." And I said, "It's the same guy." And that's a unique thing when you have that continuity amongst your playing time now to other players. It's just, I guess I'm rambling a little bit, but it's because I'm so passionate about the community. I'm so passionate about, what we're able to offer players that come to our organization. And it's all because of the community sponsorship and the volunteer time from everybody that's involved in our organization.
Coach, you mentioned it a few times, and I know multiple people that are have ties to that organization have mentioned this as well. And you said that you're an alumni. Talking about the alumni, right, with the 47 years history and stuff like that, how important is it for you, the head coach of the Okanagan Sun, to kind of carry on that tradition that is the Sun way, with the standard that comes with being a Okanagan Sun and kind of the culture that comes with it as well?
Sure. Yeah, I've had a very unique coaching career. I played at Acadia University, and when I graduated, I went back and coached my alma mater in Grand Prairie for 7 or 8 years, and then after that, had the opportunity to come here and be the offensive coordinator and then the head coach. So I've truly got the opportunity to coach 2 of my alma maters, and it means something to me as a player, because I know how special this place is, and I know what it can do for players to have the opportunity to come here. It's a different place. It's a different community. There's everybody is so welcoming and willing to help out, and realistically, a lot of us have spent our formative years here from 17 to 22, are really years that you're growing up and maturing as an individual. And for me, coming here to Kelowna and maturing allowed me the opportunity to gain a full scholarship and go play university, and it allowed me to start my life outside of football by being here. And so that's the type of effort, that's the type of thing that we're trying to provide to other players that are coming here. And again, that's just based off of the community, and the culture that's here is very different than anything I think even I experienced when I played here. And it's something that has been cultivated very hard by our coaches, by our support staff, by our trainers, by our board of directors, to really raise that level of excellence and expectation to something that we feel is something that we can maintain as a group. And so that level of excellence and what we've seen over the last number of years here is a direct result of all the different people that are involved in the organization, plus our community sponsorship and involvement from an organization as well too.
Coach, my last one for you, and just thankful for your time once again, Coach. Just kind of a message to anybody that's tuning in, fans in Kelowna, out of Kelowna. How can they support the Okanagan Sun this upcoming season? Whether it's buying tickets to single games, season tickets, billets, sponsorships, you name it, Coach. Where can the people help out and maybe visit the website?
Sure. Everything's on our website, OkanaganSun.ca. You can buy tickets. You can find the sponsorship packages. They can reach out to myself on Instagram, Travis_Miller92. You can reach out to Nat Nagy as well on Instagram. But at the end of the day, everything is run through our website and social media. And again, Cole, I appreciate everything that you do, man. It's great watching these previews. I also love your other videos as well too. So keep doing what you're doing. It's great for our not just the BCFC but the CJFL as a whole. Appreciate everything that you're doing and everybody else that's involved in this.
Appreciate it, Coach. Lastly, Coach, I have to just throw this one in there as well. For anybody that's tuning in, why should they be coming out to the Apple Bowl this year to be checking out the Okanagan Sun on Saturdays, as well as, you guys are going to be away for periods of time as well. Why should they be tuning into BCFC TV to check you guys out on the road as well?
Yeah, I think, our program is definitely, I'm here at the Apple Bowl right now, sitting in the stands. I don't know if you can see, but it's an absolutely gorgeous night here in Kelowna. So you can look at the mountains, you can hang out. Our stands are usually packed all the way across. So if there isn't any better other reason than just to come and watch a game on a beautiful night like this, I can't give you any other reasons. But, from our organization's perspective, if you want to get better as a player, as a person, if you want to develop, join the 13 or 14 guys every offseason that join the U Sport level, move on to the next and have that opportunity. I think that's why we're here. That's what we do. We've put 36 players into U Sport over the last 3 seasons. Very, very proud of the effort and work that these guys do when they're here, developing and putting in the time. And any player that comes here is going to get that opportunity. They may not start right away, but they get the opportunity to work their way into that starting role. And when they do, the opportunities come.
Awesome, Coach. I know how busy you are, Coach, so I appreciate you for doing this. I know, unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, we had to do this times 2. Coach, it's crazy of like getting into this space now of like how much maybe not how much this happens, but like little story quickly of the first time I ever recorded a podcast with Derek Dennis. We didn't have any audio, so we had to do the same thing and had to get the old, can we record this again? So, Coach, I know how busy you are, number one, and like I said, coming fresh off the practice field and trying to, be a family man as well, Coach. Just very gracious of your time and jumping on here once again tonight.
No, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Coach Travis Miller of the Okanagan Sun. Coach, hopefully we'll chat again soon, and best of luck this season.
Thanks, you too.
Awesome. That was head coach of the Okanagan Sun, Travis Miller, for our Okanagan Sun season preview. Looking forward to the season being here, folks, as it is only a few weeks away. Recording this on the 3rd of July, 16 days out from season kickoff. By the time you guys are listening to this, it'll be just over 2 weeks. So last few reminders before we get out of here, guys. Of course, you guys can follow us on our social media platforms at _CF Fanatics over on Twitter and at Canadian Football Fanatics on Instagram. Of course, I dropped the good news before we had Coach Miller join us that we're going to be collaborating with the BCFC this season. So as I mentioned, go blow up their Instagram page, go blow up their YouTube, let them know how excited you guys are for content this season. As we are going to continue our season previews with the rest of the head coaches around the league, we will get into our weekly show once the season starts. So as I mentioned, go blow up their social media, let them know how excited you guys are. And this is season preview number 2 down. 5 more to go. Hope you guys enjoyed. As I mentioned, like the video, comment down below, and most importantly, subscribe, and we will catch you guys on the next one.